Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Reuven Carlyle, representing the good, noble, and gracious and honorable people of the 36th Legislative District, widely known as the heart and soul of Seattle. Madam Chair, I very much appreciate this opportunity. I've worked on this bill very hard with a lot of great stakeholders working it hard, and I really very much appreciate your consideration. We face a scenario today where textbooks is a $9 billion industry. And the fact of the matter is, I would argue that there's a substantial market distortion because in most scenarios, taxpayers are the primary customers, taxpayers and students in the higher education environment. So the question is, are we being intelligent customers? Are we making good decisions? Today, based upon the model that you just heard ably from staff, about $64 or so million is distributed biennium for textbooks. Local districts of the 295 districts spend substantially more than that allocation, substantially. I don't know the exact number. Perhaps OSBI has some insight into that. So the fact is we're spending an extraordinary amount of money. The average date of a textbook in this state is anywhere from 7 to 15 plus years. Here's two standard books, an anthropology and a government book that are currently on the shelf at the Tumwater School District. One is 17 years old and one is 15 years old. The cost of these books range new anywhere from $120 to $180. The market distortion that I would argue is occurring today is driven by the fact that there's been virtually no price reduction in the textbook market, almost without exception. So if I could, 3 years ago, this committee and the legislature approved a program called Open Course Library at the community college system. It was a $750,000 one-time allocation. The purpose of that money was to get different instructors to sit down in the most commonly taken courses in the community college system. The Gates Foundation promptly matched that program. So fast forward today, we are on the verge this coming year of having all of the infrastructure in place and being well down the path toward more than 300,000 community college students saving close up to $41 million a year in out-of-pocket expenses on textbooks from an average of $1,300 per year per student. This bill is about trying to bring this concept to the K-12 system. But here's the beauty of it, and here's the essence of it. The content in the K-12 system already exists. So in the bill, you'll hear language about creating materials to meet Common Core standards. It already exists. These materials developed by CK-12, and there's other open course organizations funded by a variety of nonprofits, which are peer-reviewed and detailed, meet not only the Common Core standards, but Washington State standards where they diverge. What I'm trying to suggest is that if we invest a very small amount of money to organize, structure, train, and distribute high-quality material that already exists to our 295 districts, we can save substantial amount of money. I also want to make an argument that quality is higher and that students learn better. Quality is higher for the simple reason that anyone on the instructional side knows that the essence of all of this material is modular. So unlike a set, rigid system, it's inherently designed to be plug and play with respect to how an instructor wants to use this. It's a menu. It's a buffet. So the ability to pick and choose. So the math curriculum for K through 6 through 12, for example, is completely done. Most of the science is completely done. Many of the other humanities are also fully underway. This legislation is designed, I believe, to provide the core infrastructure so that OSPI can do, I would argue, exactly what we want them to do, provide core infrastructure, information, and management and facilitation and training of high-quality information so that the 295 districts can make independent, permissive-based decisions about instructional material. There's absolutely nothing in here, absolutely nothing that gets the state in the publishing business. There's nothing here that says that a commercial, expensive, proprietary textbook can't attempt to continue to sell to districts. It is a choice. We're trying to be an intelligent consumer. We're trying to use the unbelievable high-quality material that exists out there, and are trying to help people learn how to use this material. There was a study in Utah that suggested very strongly that students learn with OpenCourseWare at a higher level. The reason is very simple. With a commercial textbook, you are not permitted to highlight and to write in the book because obviously it has to be shared. You see that it happens every single day with students. In an open course material that is in a digital format free, in a printed format ranges about $4.16 compared to an extraordinary difference. You are not only free to underline and to highlight, but you are encouraged to do so. It belongs to you, and it's not a big deal to do that. I think that it's clear that the costs are substantially lower, that it's higher quality for learning, that it's flexible for instructions because it's modular from the very beginning, and that finally the money that we might save is absolutely unequivocally designed to remain in the classroom. This is not an attempt to save the state dollars. I don't think that that's the appropriate step. I think having an element of service to the 295 districts to organize this high-quality material, let them keep those resources in the classroom where they belong and make better decisions at the local level with access to high-quality material, in my view, is a strong public policy.
So the material, then, do students keep the books? Do they go home and build their own library, or is this something that would be kept at the school district?
Well, so a couple of points. The actual cost of printing a book is the only actual cost. So these are nonprofits that have built this material, again, peer-reviewed. It's a choice of a district whether they want to purchase hard copies or not. A digital copy is, of course, absolutely free. So if they have electronic devices. In terms of printing it off, that's a decision that a district might want to make, a teacher might want to make if a student wants to keep it. Obviously, when you're dealing with $4, $6, $7 per book relative to $120 to $180, you have that type of flexibility.
Okay, there was a question over here. Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we've all known, the battle between the textbook publishers and the economic incentives between the authors has been a significant obstacle to getting textbooks that are not 15 and 17 years old. Particularly the fact that they focus on Florida, Texas, California, large population states. On Thursday, Apple Computer is going to announce an extremely aggressive initiative through its iBooks approach for exactly what you're doing. Now, you said there are a lot of nonprofits, but when we're trying to stabilize curriculum and update it, when all of a sudden we get giants dancing in terms of who's going to be the source for content, you know, that'll create some challenges because this legislature is not going to really be able to assess that. How would you suggest that we monitor that so as their interests sort out, we can maintain the focus on what our interest is according to your testimony?
Thank you very much for the question. I would argue that this is exactly the appropriate role for OSPI to help oversee and manage how content relates to Common Core. This is one of the most tactical frontline benefits of Common Core standards, in the sense of as curriculum is designed, as you heard from the presentation earlier, the conversation about management of curriculum, the overlay with those Common Core standards, that is the essence of what's happening here. So they're already doing that with respect to overseeing and managing how different curricula meet the Common Core standards. This fits right into that. I don't think that it's substantially more incremental work. Many of the organizations, CK-12 and many others, provide a very detailed analysis on their website, which I would love to be able to show you at some point soon, with respect to what content meets those standards. So there's a great deal of effort underway to do exactly that.
Representative Sequist.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Reuven, one of the breakthroughs here is the instant publishing industry, which can produce these books for a few dollars a piece. Could you describe how an individual district would access that? Because in my understanding, we actually have quite a sizable instant publishing industry right here in the state. So how would a school district go about
We do. Thank you for the question. I would suggest that this is the essence of what a small amount of money for OSPI should be. It would be to structure and organize the various content options relative to local curriculum, relative to Common Core standards. Again, just providing that information in a flexible format so that they can basically begin to look at things in a modular fashion. So rather than does an entire book meet our standards, it's do various modules meet those standards? And that obviously is a very, very different question. It's very easy to do relative to time and energy and resources required. So that's why I'm trying to empower OSPI to have that basic infrastructure and organizing all the websites, organizing the distribution process, and frankly being a smart customer, making deals, for example, with printing entities where we as a large customer get a bulk rate on printing. It's just that simple. Because we're not paying copyright costs relative to commercial interests, it's a different structural model. So it's really about the commoditization of pricing around printing.
Representative Pollitt.
Thank you, Representative Carlyle. I just want to point out that the 46th district is also the heart, soul, and intelligence capital of Seattle. We'll share all the titles with the 36th, especially as the lines go back and forth.
Yeah.
I want to applaud your work on the open source. My own, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking of just this year, my own students' Seattle Schools Social Studies textbook has large bodies of water that no longer exist when he's trying to study oceans and, boundaries that no longer exist. You have to go online to find it, and many students don't have that resource to go online. And therein lies one of the questions I have about the equalization and opportunity gap when students don't have that opportunity, but our schools are using online resources. And also, what is as you know, Seattle has district curricula committees and coordinators, and every district does. They seem to be very well aware of these online resources and share them, and many teachers and schools use them. So I'm uncertain what $1 million or so per year, every year of coordination from OSPI would do. Why does OSPI need that money to do what districts seem to be able to do right now to supplement their curricula or replace, in some cases, have entirely already replaced textbooks when the district makes that decision?
Thank you, Representative Paulette. Last summer, the Seattle School District canceled a $6.1 million purchase of textbooks. It was a planned rotation, and they canceled that because of this initiative. I met with the chairman, with the board members, I met with the superintendent, I met with the chief academic officer, and simply introduced them to all of the materials that exist. I brought in some subject matter experts from around the state and the country with respect to what exists today. Because of what they learned from that effort, they canceled that $6+ million purchase of textbooks. I would suggest, with due respect, that if it's that difficult for Seattle, just from a timing and a logistics point of view, to figure this out, that our 295 districts do need support. They do need assistance. I don't think it's easy. The myriad of information with respect to the Apple initiative and all the other e-textbooks, as well as the nonprofit aspect of it, is complex. There is a lot of content. Managing it with respect to the oversight of our curriculum standards is a great deal of work, and I do think it's ongoing. That's my argument.
Okay. Representative Reichel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Carlyle, the struggles in the early adopters in higher education to go online was the finding of the content, amassing enough curriculum and really building something robust so that people said, hey, that's got the rigor that a traditional textbook or a traditional course has had. They took years to overcome that. This is a game changer because the work has already been done for us in a very meaningful way to address national standards. Tell us about the opportunity that now having the content provides us in terms of the proliferation of online learning in K-12, homeschoolers access. Tell us about the opportunity here by simply having textbooks ready to go.
Well, I think you alluded to it. The bottom line is this is a game changer with respect to worldwide access to the highest quality, peer-reviewed content that meets every standard that this institution has set. I believe that the 295 districts simply deserve access to this information in the easy fashion that is presented to them so that they can unleash their teaching potential. This is completely permissive. We're not trying to force. I completely believe that the carrot model of just educating districts about the power of this will snowball, and we will have rapid adoption throughout Washington State. That I would also note that this entire initiative really began in many ways with Governor Schwarzenegger in California. It was one of his top first-term priorities, and invested tens of millions of dollars down there, and we're simply in many ways riding the coattails of the extraordinary work that's been done. Also, some of the key nonprofits in the world that have been behind the open source movement are behind this movement in terms of making information free and available.
Representative Probst.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for bringing this forward. I think it's an extraordinary opportunity for the state. Have there been any estimates of how much school districts could save in the future by having access to this free curriculum rather than purchasing it?
I don't know myself. I know obviously what we send to the districts, and we know that they spend, again, tens of millions of dollars more, and we know that the textbooks are substantially out of date. So in terms of actual savings, I don't really have a projection. Maybe some of the folks behind me might have some insight into that, but I appreciate the opportunity, obviously, for us to really save them some money.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Now we have three people who would like to testify on this bill. Cable Green, hi Cable, come on down. I still have you on my Facebook. We haven't talked, but you're still there. Carl Nelson from OSPI and Jerry Bender, come on down. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I have you on Skype.
That's right.
That's why I missed your face.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Cable Green, recently at the Washington State Board for Community and Technical Colleges, and now I lead education efforts for Creative Commons. The Internet, cheap computers, and digital educational content has made it possible for the first time in human history, as Representative Carlyle said, to share the sum of human knowledge at a marginal cost of zero. We see this on Wikipedia, we see it online, and you see it in these textbooks. To put a fine point on the number, the state of Utah just ran a little project, 2,000 textbooks for students using these CK-12 books in chemistry in a public school district in Provo. They only ran 2,000 copies. We have 1 million students in our state. They ran 2,000 copies, and they got the cost of the 300-page chemistry textbook down to $4.65, and that cost included shipping and handling. I'll show you the website in just a moment. For 10 years, the Global Open Educational Resources Movement has worked on leveraging these opportunities so that students and teachers have no-cost legal access to courses, textbooks, and research. And the interesting thing, as Representative Carlyle pointed out, is that Washington State's at this unique moment in time. These resources exist. Washington has adopted the Common Core standards, and Washington, along with 43 other states, now have a common need. And that common need is that they're going to need updated curriculum, and they're going to need updated textbooks. What the state of Washington is currently getting for its $64 million a year K-12 textbook expenditure is textbooks that are on average, and I just got these numbers from OSPI, 7 to 11 years out of date. Right? So ask yourself, is it okay that our kids are learning with textbooks that are 7 to 11 years out of date? I would argue not in the 21st century or any century for that matter. And when we have these opportunities in front of us where, in fact, we've got not just $4.65 options in paper that we can, in fact, give the kids, as Representative Hayes said, and let them create a library of their own, but CK-12 also has 4 online digital formats that are all free so that the kids can get them on their computers, they can get the books on their phones, they can get the books on their Kindles or on their iPads or any other tablet device that they might have, and all of those options are free. Important note that Representative Carlyle made is that this bill doesn't require that the state build anything, and it certainly doesn't require adoption of any of these materials. The open course library was mentioned. I'll just make a quick reference to it. The first 39 courses of that project were just released, and the first 42, the next 39 are being built now. The interesting statistic there is that if only the faculty who developed those 42 courses use those courses, the savings to just their students, which isn't very many students, is $1.3 million in this academic year. The total cost of building the courses was $1.2 million. So in 1 year, if nobody else adopts it, the savings exceed the investment, right? So if I could I get a web browser on this? And I'll wrap up just briefly and then take questions and show you what this actually looks like. This is an organization, this is a nonprofit called CK-12, and their whole purpose for existing is to create K-12 open textbooks that are freely available to anybody in the world who wants to use them. Now, most important, if you look down on the side here, it says, if I can find it, standards correlation here. So if I click on the standards correlation, I can go in, and I can not only see which textbooks align currently with the state of Washington, but here are all the books, and you can see them. There's algebra, geometry, calc, middle school math, social sciences, etc. So this is what they've actually taken the Washington state curricular standards and modified their books to make sure they directly align with every single state standard in Washington. Doesn't mean you can't use the rest of their books, and they've got a whole fleet of them. But these are the ones that the work has specifically been done. And then back to the point on Common Core, if we go up and select Common Core from the list, that list will change, and you can see exactly what's been aligned with Common Core. So again, the question of, does this work for our state? The answer is yes, they've directly aligned. The question of, does it work with Common Core? The answer again there is yes. Now, they don't have every textbook in Common Core or every grade, but currently they've got math 6 through 12 aligned with Common Core, and as you know, there are new Common Core standards coming online for science and others. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
So I'm looking at this book, and you're saying that if the school adopts this and uses this, that I say as a sophomore student or junior, whatever, taking algebra, can have this book and go home with it, or is this going to stay in the school?
Well, again, that would be up to the school district, right? So Representative Rechtel was a school board member of Tumwater. Was, past tense. And his district, so this is an algebra book. His district would make a decision that this year they're going to refresh their algebra books. Cost is going to be approximately $100,000, $150,000 to do so, and therefore they're going to have to keep the books for 10 years. And the kids cannot keep the books. There's going to be a sticker in the front that says, you may not write in this book, you may not tear pages out of it. If you lose it, your parents are financially liable. So essentially, you've criminalized the activity of using the book. And all the study skills that we teach them about highlighting, et cetera, that's all out, right? That's the current model. And then you get books that are 8 to 11 years out of date. This model says, here's a book, and because we're going to run more than 2,000, the costs are less than $465. So Tumwater can probably run this book for $3, is my guess, in the in-state publishing industry. And the message to the kid is, here's a brand new book. It's up to date. It's current. We've got 4 digital versions if you don't want to carry this heavy thing around. And by the way, if you lose it, don't sweat it. It's $3. We'll buy you a new one. At the end of the year, keep it and make it part of your library. It's a very different message to students.
Okay, and then it also has in here in lessons, it has watch the YouTube video. So the YouTube videos, are they updated in any way? I mean, it tells you where to go, and I mean, this is all through the book, so.
So one question that comes up around open resources all the time is, gosh, who's maintaining this stuff, right? So in the case of CK-12, again, a big foundation endowed. They, in fact, not only have editors and peer review process on the construction of the books, but they also have an ongoing maintenance process as well, where they, in fact, hire subject matter experts in K-12 and in the best universities to update these materials. One final thing I just want to show you. If you go into, and so you can see, oh wait, they can't see it. Can you put it back up on the screen?
Madam Chair, are you requesting us to do this? Ordinarily, this is for invited panelists rather than.
Yes, please do this.
So if you look here, here's the entire list of books, which is more than what's been aligned to Washington State standards and more than what's been aligned to Common Core. And all of this, of course, is all free and openly licensed and available in digital formats, et cetera. But for example, if I go in, I'm just going to go into ecology here. To Representative Carlyle's point, the individual districts don't just have to take the books as is. They certainly can. The books are created. They're ready to go. You can download them today and just use them. But a district might also say, you know, we don't really like the order of the chapters, or we don't like Chapter 2 at all, and we'd kind of like to replace Chapter 2 with something our teachers produced. And so you can see here I've got all the chapters of the book of ecology as built, and then if I just click and drag and drop, I can drag these chapters over. Oh, this computer doesn't have, maybe it does, yeah. So I can just come down here, click on the plus buttons, and I'm creating my book you see over here in real time, and then when I'm done, I simply hit save, and I've created a custom book to meet my district's needs, and I can enter my own materials and then send it to the print on demand and have copies printed for $3.